Chapter 13 of A Lucky Penny by a Self-Made Man. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 13, in which Tom ascribes all his good fortune to the lucky penny. Next morning, Tom left Dick to amuse himself with an interesting book and crossed over to the business section of Boston. He found Mr. Rockwell's wholesale jewelry establishment without any trouble, for Tom was thoroughly familiar with the city of his birth and presented himself before his new employer. "I'm going to send you out on short trips in this neighborhood, to Lynn, Salem, Marblehead, Newburyport, etc. I will give you both a salary and a commission, and every facility to get on, as I am interested in your success." "You're very kind," replied Tom gratefully. "Not at all. The obligation is entirely on my side. I will now introduce you to my manager, who will give you instructions in our prices and methods, and such pointers as he may deem necessary. These little trips will break you into the business, give you the confidence necessary to undertake more extensive journeys, and broaden your views of life and business generally." Then he took Tom to a smaller office and made him acquainted with Mr. Small, the gentleman who supervised the details of his extensive jewelry business. Mr. Rockwell had already spoken to his manager about Garland. Mr. Small therefore expressed the pleasure he felt in making the boy's acquaintance, and he lost no time in taking Tom in hand and instructing him in the mysterious hieroglyphics representing the pieces of the stock of samples the lad was expected to carry with him. After that he devoted much time to instructing Tom in many little tricks of the trade, told him how he ought to approach people in trying to make a sale, and how he should conduct himself generally in order to achieve the best results as a successful salesman. After lunch, Tom left the store with a sample case in hand, en route for the little city of Lynn, about 11 miles from Boston. He took a train at the Eastern Depot, and in a very short time stepped out of the car at his destination. He had the addresses of the principal jewelers in town. Entering the first store, he introduced himself in a pleasant, breezy way that was second nature with him, and asked permission to display his samples. As this jeweler was accustomed to do business with Mr. Rockwell, Tom found it easy to interest the proprietor in his wares, and before he left sold him quite a little bill. It was, therefore, with additional confidence that he struck the next store. This man, whose name was Benson, had never purchased of the Rockwell house, and wasn't disposed to do so. He was generally regarded as a crank by the trade. There was only one salesman in the jewelry line who was able to sell him goods, and Benson was accustomed to wait till this drummer showed up. It happened that this particular salesman was way behind his time, and his customer was getting impatient. Still, for all that, Benson wouldn't buy from the representatives of other houses who dropped in to see him on general principles, though without great expectations. Garland, being a new man, wasn't aware of the eccentricities of this Lynn jeweler. He entered his store hoping and really expecting to make a sale. The jeweler happened to be in a bad humor, having missed a good sale because he was out of what his customer desired. So when Tom announced his mission, he jumped on the boy like a savage, and said a great many unpleasant things. Tom was greatly taken aback, but his good humor did not fail him, and he treated the angry man with such politeness and consideration that the jeweler was impressed, and suddenly asked to see the boy's samples after he had restrapped his case again. Garland didn't lose a moment in spreading them before him. "I suppose you think I'm a crank," snorted Benson grimly. "Not at all," answered Tom pleasantly, and then he began to call the jeweler's attention to some particularly fine pearls he had. "I'm going to look at your samples, young man, but I don't think I'll buy anything from you. I get all my goods from Ship, Junk & Company, and they're good enough for me." "That makes no difference. I shall be glad to show you what I have, whether you intend to buy or not." "You're new at the business, aren't you?" "Yes, sir," replied Tom cheerfully. "I thought so," sneered the Lynn man. "Otherwise you wouldn't waste your time on me." "I'm afraid you misjudge me, sir. I don't think I'm wasting my time affording you the opportunity to see some of the finest gems and settings in the Boston market." "Humph," said Benson, looking at the boy askance. Then he began to examine his line of samples carefully. After he had gone all over them and used up the better part of an hour of Tom's time, he said shortly, "I guess I don't want anything." "Very well," replied Garland, just as pleasantly as though he had sold him $1,000 worth, restrapping his case again. "Sorry there is nothing here that attracts your eye. I will call another time."
"Hold on," cried Benson as Tom wished him a cheery good afternoon. "Just
Open your case again, will you?" "Certainly, sir." Up went the case again on the table. The straps were removed, and Tom asked him what particular tray he wished to see. Benson went over every one again, making selections here and there, and when Tom made out his list, Benson owed him over $2,000, which he immediately paid by check. It was a signal victory for the boy, though he didn't know it till he returned to Boston late in the day and turned in his account. "What's this?" asked Mr. Small, looking at the Benson check in astonishment. "Is it possible you sold that man over $2,000 worth of our goods?" "Yes, sir. Why not?" asked Tom innocently. "Why not?" echoed Mr. Small. "There isn't a man in the business that's been able to sell him $1 worth of stuff outside of Jake Hastings of Ship, Junk and Company for the last 10 years, to my certain knowledge. How did you do it?" Tom told his story. "Well, you're a wonder. You must have hypnotized him." "I'm afraid that isn't in my line," said Tom. "I'm thinking Mr. Rockwell will have a fit when he sees that check in the morning." "Isn't it good?" asked Tom, beginning to feel alarmed. "Good? Why, of course it's good. Good as gold. I meant to say that Mr. Rockwell will be astonished at your luck." "Maybe it was my lucky penny that did it. I have it in my pocket." "What do you mean, your lucky penny?" asked Mr. Small curiously. Tom gave him the history of the bright penny he had received from May Rockwell. Mr. Small gave a low, amused whistle. "You have certainly been lucky since you got it. But do you really ascribe your good fortune to that penny? Come now, you're not as superstitious as all that, are you? What do you think, sir?" "I think it's simply a coincidence." "Perhaps it is, but somehow I like to associate my run of luck to the penny. I hadn't a cent in this world when little May dropped it in my hand. Since I got it, everything has prospered with me. It may be superstition, but it kind of gives me confidence. If that is so, you'd better hold on to it by all means." And with that, Mr. Small wished him good night. End of chapter 13.